for the last time today, everyone, and welcome back. 9th video of the day, and it's also the biggest one of the day, where we have my actual predictions for the playoffs. This is going to be a fun video. So, as you can see here, we have all 16 teams that are in the playoffs on the board, and we have all the teams that are not in the playoffs above the board. So, I made the bracket setup, I've made all the preparations, we are ready to do this, let's go. So we're going to go through the same order that we went through previews. We're going to start with Colorado and Nashville, and sorry if you're a Rangers or Pens fan, we're going to end over here, and of course we'll go through all the rounds as well. So to start it off, I already filled out my bracket on NHL.com. It's already in. I already put it in for the NHL bracket. I'm creating one with my buddies, so making one of those. I made. If you want to join, that's too bad because it's for my friends only. But maybe in the future I'll do an open one. But so yeah, Colorado and Nashville. So in the preview we discussed how Colorado has motivation to win, and I think this is just a bad matchup for Nashville. What happened in 2018 was Nashville was essentially a slow slaughter of Colorado. They fought back against the slaughter, but it was coming no matter what. And that's because for that I feel like this is going to be a win in 6 games for the Colorado Avalanche. This is going to be a revenge. Nashville's not going to go down easy. This is why I really wish they'd play Calgary, because Nashville and Calgary would have been a brutal series. Nashville and Calgary have that same. I feel Calgary is essentially a better version of Nashville. Nashville's Johansson, Forsberg, and Duchesne are essentially Nashville's Gaudreau, Lindholm, and Tkachuk. So, and also both teams have good depth. Both teams have good defense. Nashville is the best defenseman in the league, but without their goaltender and UC Saros, there is really no chance for Nashville to come and win this series. If they had Saros, I'd maybe put it 7 games, but Colorado is going to win this series, and I'm almost sure of it. Moving on to Minnesota and St. Louis, a much closer series, but I keep looking off my phone right here to make sure I'm doing this right. Yep, so this series, I feel like it's going to come down to goaltending, and it's going to be a close series. It's going to be who's going to outdo the other. Whoopsie. And I feel that Cam Talbot and Marc-Andre Fleury are going to be able to outdo Ville Husso and Jordan Binnington. That's why I have Minnesota moving on. But it's going to be a long series. It's going to be Minnesota winning. Whoa, that's a little too... Not think I was writing that close. Let me just fix that real quick. It's going to be Minnesota win in 7. A 7-game series already. Yes, sir. Next, we move on to the Pacific Division. First, we have the Central, even though there's one Central team in the Pacific, but that's just how it is every year. Calgary and Dallas, I'm not going to pretend there's a hope for Dallas. I don't know, I've seen Instagram people saying how Dallas going up against Colorado was a better matchup for them, and I have to say, I would agree, because I feel like Calgary might bully Dallas out of town. And because of that, I have a Calgary winning. In 5 games. I think Dallas can squeeze one out. I think they'll be possibly winning Game 3 at home on home ice, but it's not going to be able to overcome Calgary. I'm sure of it. And now a series that I think people are looking at very closely, and a lot of people have picked the Kings to upset. Kings are going to be an interesting scenario. Both teams don't. Edmonton is looking to avenge for what happened last year against Winnipeg in that first round upset. I can't see the Kings beating Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. They just don't. I don't think they have the star power. Quinton Byfield is not ready to be a star yet. They've got a bunch of youth that's going to come up, and they're only going to keep getting better. But for now, I'm going to have to say it's going to be not that close of a series, especially with the way Mike Smith has been playing. That's going to be a Edmonton win in 6. No, in 5. Why did I put 6? In 5. LA will be able to squeak one out, I believe. Maybe they'll win game 1 or 2. and then after that, I think Edmonton might just be able to roll over them. So we have the West settled down, but now let's move to the East. Florida and Washington. There's a 22-point gap between these two teams, and Florida is looking for some playoff success. They haven't won a round since 1996. Will this be the year they finally do it? They're going up against a hard opponent in the Caps, and this is a Caps team that doesn't have a fully healthy Ovechkin, a fully healthy Carl Hagel in his depth. Their goaltending is a bit shaky in terms of Samsonov and Vanacek. Which they, to be honest, I'm not even sure which goalie they're going to use. Probably Samsonov, but you never know. And I just think Florida's goal scoring ability doesn't do well against Washington's more physical defensive style, or other way around. Washington's physical style won't be able to outdo the speed of Florida. So for that reason, I'm going to take Florida wins their first series since 1996. It's going to be harder to write this over here. Wins in 5. So we have a 5 game right there. And now the series everyone's been waiting for, Toronto and Tampa. I won't lie, I kind of cheated. I made 2 brackets because I have 2 email accounts. But I'm not disclosing the other one because it's for privacy. And so yeah, I made my normal one on NHL.com using my YouTube channel, my normal email that's on my YouTube channel somewhere. And that I changed the bracket. I made one change in the other bracket. It's the exact same. The West is entirely the same. The only difference is that if Toronto wins this series, they're winning the Cup. I'm convinced of that. I would be scared of Toronto if they make it out of the first round because I feel like they'll be on a mission. However, just for not just the memes, but because I think it's only a storybook telling some. There's no pressure on Tampa. They're back-to-back Cup winners. They don't need to prove anything. Toronto is the one that needs to prove something, and they are on a mission. And if they don't succeed in this mission, I'm kind of gonna be kind of worried for them next year because at that point I feel like they'll never win a round. But you know, when no one expects you to win, that's probably when you probably are going to whip one out. However, Tampa, I think their goaltending is going to be able to outdo Jack Campbell. Vasilevsky is better than Campbell. It's kind of just how it is. And I think their offenses are similar. I'd give Tampa's defense a small edge over Toronto's. And it's going to be a close series, though. So that's why I have Toronto fans are going to cringe when I say this. Tampa Bay wins in 7. Another 7-game loss for Toronto. I can't lie, I would be laughing. I said last year I didn't have a channel at the time, but I had in my in last year's bracket I had Montreal beating Toronto in 6 games. When they beat one and when they came back from 7, I was jumping for joy. A, because I won $20. B, because it was hilarious. But if they lose in 7 and it's in like an embarrassing scenario again, I don't think Steve Dangle will be able to live it down. I got to watch his preview. I saw it was uploaded earlier in the day, but I've just been working. But I'll watch that as soon as this video is over. But moving on to the Metropolitan from the Atlantic. Carolina and Boston. If Frederik Andersen isn't healthy, this is a big factor. Frederik Andersen, I think, could very much propel Carolina past. I don't think they need Frederik Andersen. I think they could play well enough in front of Antti Ranta that they might not need him. Boston, they're not fully healthy as well. Pasternak's had issues. Lindholm has had issues. And Bergeron is getting older. Marchand's still producing well. But this could be seen as a last hurrah for Boston as well. And they're gonna want this, and I think it's gonna be this series. I think is gonna be closer than all of the rest possibly. Boston's lack of depth, however, I think is gonna down them in another 7-game series. So I'm gonna take Carolina over Boston in 7. I just realized as well that I haven't been moving these up, so let me just quickly do that. Florida, Tampa, oh, that's close, there we go, and Carolina. Moving on, we have the Rangers and Pittsburgh to finalize the first round. Pittsburgh has the motivation. The Rangers have the youth. They have the new. They're going to get them some experience here, and there are some members of this team that I think that some members of the Rangers might go to town on Pittsburgh in a way that they'll beat them. They will beat the hell out of them. Ryan Reeves, I'd be scared if he were Pittsburgh. He was once a Penguin, and he played once with that team. I have his hockey card with that team. Will he win? Will the Rangers be able to win against this team? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say the Rangers win the series in 6 games. In 6. I think the Rangers are going to be able to overcome the Penguins, and I think the Penguins' streak of losing in the first round will continue, and it's going to be a question of whether they decide to re-sign Malkin and Letang if they lose in the first round again, because then they won't have won a round since round 1 of 2018 against Philadelphia. Same with Washington. They haven't won a round since they won the Cup back against Vegas in 2018. Toronto hasn't won a round since 2004. Boston, they won a round last year against Washington. On this side, Kings, they weren't in the playoffs last year. Dallas wasn't in the playoffs last year. Nashville lost in the first round, a hard-fought series to Carolina. St. Louis got swept by Colorado. Edmonton lost in the first round last year. They got swept. Calgary didn't make the playoffs last year. Minnesota lost in the first round. Colorado lost in the second round. The only teams that have made it past the first round since last year have been Carolina, Tampa, Colorado, and Boston. Those are the only 4 teams on this board that have made it past the first round last year. So it's going to be quite hectic to see which teams are going to come out on top this year, I think. And I think this could be one of the better playoffs that we've seen in recent history as well. The bubble playoffs, I can remember, were a pretty entertaining one. 2019's playoffs were very entertaining. 2018, meh. 2021 was pretty meh. 2017, my mood was ruined after the sweep of the Hawks. 2016 was pretty mid. 2015, even though the Hawks won, it was pretty boring. I mean, the Hawks series against Anaheim was probably the best it got. 2013 was very exciting. 2014 was very exciting. 2011 was very good. 2012, no, wasn't very exciting. 2010 was very exciting. So, in recent history, there have been some duds and there have been some mids. And there have been also some very good playoff series. So, I think the first round this year can be very excellent, especially if Toronto loses again. Anyway, moving on to the second round, Colorado and Minnesota. I thought long and hard about this one. And if you can't put games on the NHL.com bracket for after the first round, you can't put games. They only use that for the first round. But I came to the conclusion that Colorado is not going to be denied this year of the third round, and that's why I have Colorado advancing. But Minnesota's not going to go quietly. Colorado wins in 7 games. I think Fleury and Talbot are going to stand on their heads. They're going to get blown out one game by Colorado, and then it starts interchanging. They're going to stand on their heads, but it's not going to be enough, and I think some overtime wins are going to go Colorado's way and possibly propel them into that next spot. Calgary and Edmonton, the Battle of Alberta. Tell me you do not want to see this if you're a hockey fan. This series is going to be brutal, it's going to be physical, and it's going to be a very fun series to watch. Who do I have coming out of this, however? I'm not going to let you see until it's ready. I have the Calgary Flames winning in 6. They will get the better of their northern brothers from Edmonton, and I think they'll be able to make their way into the conference final against the top seeded in the West, Colorado. So 2 number 1 seeds in the conference final. You expect to choke at some point, and I can't lie. I was trying to think which one of these teams is going to fall off. If anything, I did think Minnesota could possibly beat Colorado more than Edmonton could beat Calgary. I would actually, and don't get me wrong, I would love for Minnesota to beat Colorado. If that happens, the Hawks get a first-round pick from Minnesota from that second they got for Fleury. So that would be fantastic for the Hawks, so I'm all for that. And now we move to the East, where Florida will be taking on Tampa in a rematch of the Battle of Florida, this time in the second round. Will Florida be denied this year? That's my question. And I can't lie, I don't know. Tampa, they're going to be tired. They've played a lot of games over the last couple of years, and Corey Perry, even though he wasn't with Nashville, he was with Dallas, he was with Montreal, both teams that went to the finals and lost against them. And that's why I think Florida, with their fresh legs, their youth, their speed, will be able to overcome the tiredness of the Lightning, but it's not going to be easy. Florida will win in 6 games. Last series of the second round, Carolina and the Rangers. This is my problem. This is one of my. Let me think. Do I have any upsets yet? I have one upset. I just realized that. This could actually be one of the worst brackets I've ever made. But don't worry, we're about to have a second one, as I do believe the Rangers will beat the Hurricanes. I'm going to take the Rangers in this one in 6 games. I think the Rangers, Shesterkin in net is going to be able to propel them into a series win. I think after the Rangers basically beat Pittsburgh into the ground. Why did I say that and move Carolina up? Why am I that dumb? Anyway, I think that after the beating into the ground of the Penguins, I think Igor Shesterkin will stand tall in net against the Hurricanes. And even though it's going to be a very low-scoring series, I imagine, as Carolina's defense is the best in the league, and the Rangers have the best goalie in the league. So this could be a very 2-1, 3-2, 1-0, possibly a bunch of overtime games that I think will happen. So Western Conference Final, Colorado and Calgary. This is as much as a lot of people would pick Colorado in this scenario, but I'm gonna give you one thing to think about. Playoff team. The Islanders were the depiction of a playoff team. They were okay in the regular season, nothing too special, and then once the playoffs came, they took a jetpack and flew off with Daryl Sutter behind the bench. That is exactly what Calgary is, and they even did one better, as I think they've made themselves also a regular season team. Essentially a perfect combination. And that's why I think Calgary is going to win this series. And I don't know how many games, though. I feel like Calgary will win, but it'll be in, I want to say, 6 games. Sorry about that. Moving on. So yes, Calgary I think will overcome Colorado in 6 games, and I think I might have just said that backwards. I think what I should have said was Calgary is going to overcome Colorado in 6 games, and Colorado will be disappointed once again. But I think Calgary the city of Calgary will rejoice with their team back in the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since the year I was born. In the East, Florida and the Rangers. At this point, Igor Shesterkin will have outdone himself against the Hurricanes. Florida could always go to... They have Bobrovsky and they have Knight. And this team, I think, will be firing on all cylinders after having played 11 games in the first 2 rounds, while the Rangers at this point will have played 12. So that's actually pretty close. But, again, Shesterkin will be a bit tired, I think. The Rangers will be a little out of gas, while I think the speed of Florida, their youth, they have Huberdeau, Barkov, Giroux has the experience, Joe Thornton motivating them. They're solid. They got depth. They have their defensive depth. The Rangers I just think are going to be overcome by it, and that's why I have Florida moving on to the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since 1996 in 5 games. Sorry about that once again. So, yes, I believe Florida will move on to the Stanley Cup Final to take on the Calgary Flames We nearly had a rematch of 1996 right here. That we were this close to getting a rematch in my eyes. And here we are in the Stanley Cup Final. If I could draw a trophy, I would draw a trophy, but I am a horrible drawer. You seriously do not want to see me draw. So, what it comes down to. It took me many minutes to think about this. Calgary or Florida. Then I thought, Florida, Calgary. Calgary, Florida. I was stuck in basically the loop of who to choose here. As once you get to the final, it's really what some bounces can change the direction of a team's history. Can't speak. A single bounce can change the trajectory of a team for years to come. We saw it happen with the Montreal Canadiens last year. And once that, if they don't win Game 5, if they don't win Game 6, none of that run ever happens. Who knows what happens to them this year? They could be better, or they could be worse. Who knows what happens? But after much thinking and much consideration, I believe that your Stanley Cup champion, let me just write this down, for the first time since 1989, the Calgary Flames will be your Stanley Cup champions in 2022. In a 6-game series, I believe, Calgary will win the Stanley Cup over the Florida Panthers. And they will win their second ever Stanley Cup, avenging the losses of 2004 against the other Florida team that really had nothing to do with it. But yes. Sorry about that, but now we're back. So yes, Calgary, essentially bullying their way to the Stanley Cup final and to the final. They, I think, will be able to defeat... ice cream truck outside. I was like, what's in my room? But, so yes, Calgary will overcome Florida. They will bully their way through the rounds. Then they will bully their way through Florida. And Darryl Sutter will have his third Stanley Cup as a coach. And will finally get one with the Flames after being denied one in 2004 when the puck was in the net and Javi Bulin did not save it. I'm a firm believer in that. So Calgary fans, you with me there? So, yes, Calgary, I would do is believe will win the Stanley Cup in 2022. I want to thank you guys for all your support and watching. This is going to be my final video of today. The Power Rankings will be up tomorrow for the final one of the season. And then on Monday, Monday is tomorrow. And then on Tuesday we will be doing another just look back at the Blackhawks season. And then we're gonna have some fun. We'll be doing some fun videos too during these days where there's playoff games. As I'm gonna be watching the playoff games most of the time, there's not gonna be as many videos coming out until like the series is over and I'll review the series. I want to thank you guys for bearing with me for this almost 25-minute video. And thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next one. Leave your thoughts down below on who you think is going to win each series and if you think my bracket is correct. But do that in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.